Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so very honored and absolutely delighted that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Amazon, Player FM, Audible, wherever you find your favorite shows. 3 absolutely wonderful guests for you today. First up, Leanna Fink is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate her new children's book. It's called Mixed Feelings. And later in the show, Melissa Coulier and Melanie Samuels will be here to celebrate Emma, the Mighty Leader. We also take a listen back to our conversation we had many years ago with Candace Cameron Bure. Before we invite Leanna into the studio, I want to take a minute to let you know what's going on at Connecticut Book Festivals. That's my other podcast. It celebrates authors from the great state of Connecticut. And I just released our interview with Neil P. Randall. He is the author of Spies in Their Spare Time. It's November 1989. The fall of the Berlin Wall is imminent, an event that will mark the end of one era and the dawn of another. Few people realize, though, how dangerously close this plan is to becoming a violent catastrophe. I really enjoyed my time speaking with Neil. He's a fascinating guy. He's lived an amazing life, and he brings all of those experiences together with his love of spy novels to create this really wonderful series that blends fact and fiction together. You need to check out the interview. It's really, really fun. I think you enjoy it a whole lot. And you should also check out Spies in Their Spare Time. What a great novel that is. You can find Connecticut Book Festivals wherever you find Reading with Your Kids. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find the Connecticut Book Festival podcast. And be sure you check out our interview with Neil P. Randall, author of Spies in Their Spare Time. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. This episode is brought to you by the Logan series. 3 wonderful books written by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Logan and the Missing Masterpiece, Logan and the Lost Luggage, Logan and the Missing Jewels. Logan and the Lost Luggage is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read, and all 3 of these books feature Logan, an adorable Cocker Spaniel who travels the world with his magic phone. You and your kids are going to love traveling around the world with Logan, meeting animals from all over the world, visiting different countries, and learning how to get along with people from other countries and other cultures. It's a beautiful series of books. Our Reading with Your Kids certified great read panel loved Logan and the Last Luggage. We know you're going to love all 3 books. Check it out today. The Logan series by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Very, very excited to welcome our guest back to Reading with Your Kids. Joining us from New York City, our guest is here to celebrate Her new children's picture book is called Mixed Feelings. Please welcome back to the show, Leanna Fink. Hey, Leanna, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Delighted to have you back. I remember our last conversation. I don't remember the name of your book, but I had really such a great time speaking with you. I thought you were very open and honest, and it was a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. That one was called You Broke It. Can you hear me okay? There's drilling upstairs. I really hope Zoom is filtering it.
You're coming through loud and clear, and there's no problems here. Tell us about Mixed Feelings, please.
Mixed Feelings is a book about feelings that are kind of layered and mixed, and it's hard to put them into words. So they're kind of these long, someone compared them to like those German portmanteau words. They're actually just sentences, but one example is shy but not sure why.
Ah.
And one is mostly happy but a little sad. And one is just in the mood to pretend to be a horse.
I think I like that last one the best.
Yeah, that one, I never felt that, but I did have just in the mood to pretend to be a dog, which was a real problem in preschool when I was a kid.
I'm sure it was. You mentioned one of the feelings was, I'm not going to say this right, but mostly happy but a little bit sad.
Yeah.
I'm imagining, and I absolutely remember times feeling like that, not only when I was a kid, but oftentimes as an adult. And for a 4-year-old, that must be really confusing.
Yeah, the example that I have in the book is of a kid who's going to the beach and his dog is kind of looking at him wistfully. So he's a little bit sad to be leaving the dog.
Absolutely, yeah. You seem to have tremendous empathy for young feelings and an understanding of young feelings. Why do you think you're able to tap into that so well?
Thank you. My guess is that I still have young feelings. As a kid, I'm trying to think about it. Well, yeah, I think my feelings are pretty strong and pretty simple these days, and there's probably some delving that I could do that I don't do. So I think this book is pretty honest as to how I feel things. Like, I don't want to delve into why I want to pretend to be a horse or a dog. It just is, and it's a very strong feeling. And when I was a kid, I had like a lot of really strong feelings that I think were unusual in that I was way more shy than average and probably more shy than most people were used to, like even teachers in my school. And so like, I just didn't have the words to explain my fear of people. But I did have this intense desire to pretend to be a dog.
That is, I can't say that I remember my feelings as clearly as you do back when I was. I have a hard time remembering how I felt yesterday. Now that I'm almost 100, but
that's harder though. Our feelings now are supplanted by logistics. They were a lot They're stronger for kids.
They certainly are a lot stronger for kids. Do you have a background in, did you study psychology, or has this always been something that's fascinating you, this idea of feelings and how we process them?
It's kind of a new as in maybe 15 years old obsession for me. I love neurology. I love psychology, and it like the self-helpy vibe is how I've come to manage my feelings. I've had layers of feelings in my life, starting with the extreme shyness as a kid and not really knowing how to manage it and feeling like, to quote the book again, the entire world is against me. And then there were different feelings in my teens and early 20s, and I've kind of cultivated a self-awareness that I don't think was inborn for me. I think it's a tool that I'm using.
You know, that idea of feeling like the whole world is against you, that certainly is something that a lot of teenagers feel.
Yeah.
or at least express. So I'm imagining, in addition to 4-year-olds, Mixed Feelings might be a great book to read with our teens.
Yeah, I am thinking of it a little bit as for everyone. Like the kids' books that I love come from a long time ago. They're the ones I was raised with. Like, I don't know, they span a long time, but I'm a big fan of like William Steig, these books, and Maurice Sendak, just these books that like their authors made them as kids' books, but were very clear that they were really just books.
Yeah.
Pictures.
Yeah. Why do you think we forget as we get older, to think back to a book that was popular many decades ago? All I needed to know was I learned in kindergarten. I know I didn't get the title right, but those simple things, we learn them, but then as we get to be adults, we seem to forget about them and add on all these other things that are so much less important.
I noticed that. I think taking care of ourselves and of other people is not something a lot of us are specialized in, and it just takes up a lot of our brain space. And that includes working at a job, and it includes taking care of a family, and it includes making fixes to a car and paying bills and stuff. And I think that just takes up so much of I think in a large part, we're like machines as adults. But I also think there's a lot of wisdom that comes with not having all the time in the world to have feelings and insights. I think what we do have is kind of better in a certain way. But I have a 3-year-old, and we are so different, he and I, and looking at him really reminds me of who I used to be in a lot of ways. It's fascinating.
It really is. There was a time, I remember looking at a picture of my son that was on the refrigerator, and my son was maybe 18, 19, 20, and I was looking at a picture of him when he was 4 years old. And I remember feeling really sad, because as much as I love the 18, 19, 20-year-old, and now I love the 31-year-old son that I have, I really missed that 4-year-old and spending time with that 4-year-old. Tell me, how do you envision a family and maybe the conversations families could have as they're reading Mixed Feelings together?
What's funny is that I think maybe parents need to do more excavating than the kids need to do. I think kids need to express their feelings in words, period. This is a very unformed thought, but so my son does a lot of tantruming, and we're trying to teach him to use his words, which is hard. But at the same time, I think I do a lot of burying of my feelings. I use my words, but I kind of use them to hide the truth of what I'm feeling. And I would never even know if I'm tantruming on the inside. He knows when he's tantruming. So I think there's work to be done for everyone in a family when it comes to these feelings.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of scary to think that there are probably a lot of adults out there who struggled with their feelings and struggled understanding their feelings as a tantruming 3-year-old who never quite learned how to deal with those feelings, and now they're out in the world.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because I think we live in a really different time than when I was growing up when it comes to expressing one's feelings. So when I see my son tantruming, my gut instinct is like to be like, oh, he's mad, or something, or oh, he's sad, which is as far as I got when I was that age. But I think there are deeper levels, and I'm always trying to think about what's going on with him. Like maybe he's not feeling safe. Maybe he's tantruming because he wants me to make some guidelines for him and feel like he wants to test his boundaries or something and test where the end of the tantrum will be. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it will be with no, you can't have any candy right now. And then he can stop.
Huh. Yeah. It's fascinating. I just finished listening to an audiobook by Father Greg Boyle, who is the founder of Homeboy Industries out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And the book is called Cherished Belonging. And Father Greg in the book is talking about the fact that there's no evil. There are just people who are hurting and need to heal. I have a feeling that that's kind of, in some ways, what you're talking a little bit. We have to figure out our feelings so that we can figure out what we need to do to heal.
I think that's so true. I'm really sensitive to people being mean, and there's a lot of that on the internet, and there's a lot of it on the street. But I always feel like this real desire to get to the bottom of it. Like if someone kind of honks their horn at me, and I don't know why, my instinct is to be like, just to like get out of the car and sit down with them and be like, what's going on? Which is not productive, but it is with your kid. And I think that's true. I think a lot of fights are between two people who are hurting. And maybe one is an aggressive hurting and one is a less aggressive but sensitive hurting often.
You mentioned the internet. How do you think technology is helping us understand our feelings or hurting us and making it harder for us to understand our feelings?
Oh, that's a great question. I post a lot on Instagram. It's something I've done for 10 years or so. And I feel it might just be me changing, but I really feel like the internet is changing. I feel like the internet is becoming less personal. I used to feel like it was a place to be, at least for shy people and for many people, like more yourself than you are in real life, and to connect with other people and find them. And of course, that was just the lovely edge of the internet, but I feel so much less of that now. I feel so much more of just this kind of blank anger that is often actually coming from robots. It's confusing. It's a confusing time. And I hope we find our way back to seeking the personal.
Seeking community. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I imagine that's it. You know, you bring up a really important point that a lot of the divisiveness that's happening on social media is being driven by bots and by people who have an agenda, and they're not looking out in our best interest. How do you think, and at what point do you think we should start talking with our kids about that and help them become more social media literate?
Ooh, I'm not there yet, but I'll be there in like 3 months, and I need advice desperately. My son has just started being very interested in phones, and it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah. I'm really happy that my kids were mid to late teens when the internet finally and social media started happening, and I was really happy they were open and shared things that were disturbing to them. One of the things that we did was we sat down and had very honest conversations with them about social media and, you know, things that they should anticipate they may run into, and, you know, solutions. If this happens, you can come talk to us. And I'm really happy I was able to give them a real life example of the fact that anything that they put out online is out there forever, and they can't get it back. And the way I did that is that on my website, for years I had a picture of me in my onstage persona and makeup with them, and they were babies. And when they got to be 10 or 11, they said, "Yeah, Pop, we're not babies anymore. Can you change that picture?" And we did. And in fact, I got a whole new website, and I didn't even have access to that image. And when they were 15, I was just doing a Google search to see what people might be saying about my show or whatever. And that picture came up.
That is a good lesson.
Yeah. And
I really want to Google it now.
Well, it's a really cute picture, and I still don't have access to it.
It's like you've split into a person and a persona, and the persona has a life of its own.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of beautiful that it's still there.
You seem to be very aware of yourself and of changes that you're going through. I don't know if a lot of people are. Is it something that you are conscious of and that you are intent to kind of notice the changes that you're experiencing?
I think it's the way I am. I think about it a lot because my husband is also very, I wish there were a different word than self-centered, but I think we're both just like, I think we both have like intense inner workings. And so it's hard to just be a vapor that's looking around. We're just very aware of like what's going on in ourselves. And I think it's a way of being, and certain people are this way.
Yeah.
And it's as good as another way. It's as empathetic. It's a form of being empathetic. It's a self-centered form of being empathetic.
Well, I suppose it's really hard to be aware and have empathy for other people if you don't first are aware and have empathy for yourself.
I think so. Well, I think there are different ways. I think some people just have a really good handle on how to exist, and they can be, I'm not positive, but I think novelists are this way where they're just kind of a walking eye, like an eyeball rather than the letter I. And they're just super empathetic, and maybe some certain therapists are this way too. But then other people are, everything that happens, they relate it to how they would feel in that situation. And that's a different form of, it's a more gonzo form of empathy.
What kind of subjects are you looking to explore in future books that you haven't been able to get to yet?
Ooh, great question. Thank you. So it's been a golden era of reading children's books for me. I'm reading a ton of kids' books with my son, and a lot of old ones and a lot of kind of wild ones from this time I'm telling you about, which I don't want to specify a decade, but there's a specific editor named Ursula Nordstrom, and she put out a lot of these great books. I kind of want like a mystical wildness, and I see the shape of this feeling and the color of this feeling, and I don't know if this book is going to be a story or what, or if it's going to be more of a poem or something, but I want it to come out of me, and I don't think it can, and I'm a pretty concrete thinker, so I'm waiting for more details, but I hope I can be faithful to this desire. And I know it won't come out of me if I'm just trying to imitate these old books, because that doesn't work. Like, that's just bad nostalgia. Yeah. But I want I want something to grow organically, but I know I need to really know myself and know how kids' books work before that happens. And it might be 5 kids' books down the line. I don't know. I love making kids' books, regardless.
Well, that's obvious. And as I'm speaking to you and you're talking about this book that you're imagining, your eyes are really lighting up, and it's obvious that you have a passion for this idea. So I can't wait for you to come back to share when that book's out there. Yeah,
my quote unquote day job as a writer is as a graphic novelist, and I do comics in little boxes. And I think secretly deep down, I've always just wanted to do kids' books because it's freer. You do a whole page. That's a whole picture. You have so much more room to explore and so much less little math problems to deal with.
I don't think I've ever heard of an artist talking about their art as a math problem.
Comics are a math problem, and there's a real joy to it. It's kind of a puzzle. I also do New Yorker cartoons, and that's a math problem in its own way, where it's kind of a Seinfeld-y math problem, the way Jerry Seinfeld talks about really pacing a joke, where you have the lead up and the punchline, and it's very mathematical how long you leave your audience in suspense, and with cartoons, that's a very visual thing, like where do you put the punchline? Do you put it above the drawing, below the drawing? So that's a different kind of math problem. But I think there's a real anarchy to kids' books at their best. And it's scary to me. Freedom scares me. Decisions scare me. Like having to follow my instinct scares me, but I think it's the real thing.
You know, you talk about being very shy. You talk about things scaring you. And I think one of the reasons that I enjoy speaking to you so much here on Reading with Your Kids is that despite the shyness and the fear, you allow yourself to be very vulnerable here and open in sharing your feelings.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just if that's an adult onset breaking out of the shyness. I think I had some intense joy as a kid that came more from looking at rocks and playing with my stuffed animals than it did from interacting with people. And I feel like as I've gotten older and more aware of like the world and being a human, I've stopped allowing myself those escapes. And I still draw, but like I'm so aware of people that everything I do is about people. And like my real joy now comes from connecting with people. So my life is really about finding these little tunnels through the self-consciousness and through the fear and the shyness to connecting with people.
Awesome. Hey, can you tell us where we can find out more about the comics and those things that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think you can go to my website, lianathink.com. Most of all but one of my comics have been published by Random House, so you can look on that website. They're sold everywhere. Yeah, I think website would be a good place to start. Thank you.
Awesome. And we can find out about Mixed Feelings on your website too?
Yeah, it's available everywhere starting January 21st.
Awesome. We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author and illustrator of Mixed Feelings. Our guest has been Liana Finck. Liana, thanks so much for being back with us.
Thanks, Jed. It's been lovely.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Hey there, families! Are you looking for an exciting way to bond and learn together? Look no further than our STEM is Family Fun video series. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of STEM through hands-on activities right in your own home. Our series features lessons from experts at renowned institutions like the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, the National Children's Museum in Washington, D.C., and Children's Museum Houston. From making homemade rainbow bridges to creating an oboe out of a straw, there's something for everyone in the family to enjoy. So grab your lab coats and get ready for an adventure. Go to readingwithyourkids.com and click on the STEM is Family Fun link at the top of the page and let the learning and laughter begin. STEM is Family Fun, where learning and bonding go hand in hand. My friends, I think we are in for a fascinating conversation this afternoon. We are here speaking to the authors of Emma, the Mighty Leader. Please welcome first from Los Angeles, Melissa Collier. Melissa, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Delighted. Sorry I messed up your name.
No, it's all good.
And also joining us from Michigan, Melanie Samuels. Hey, Melanie, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having us on.
Delighted to have you on. Melanie, why don't we start with you? Who is Emma and what made her a mighty leader?
Well, Emma is actually my daughter, but Melissa, the way that this book came about was Melissa, who is essentially the godmother to my daughter Emma. was thinking of a birthday present for her and thought that writing and designing a children's book, specifically a coloring book, would be a great gift. And then she thought, wait a second, why don't we do this together and make it more about our mission as our company, Live Well, Lead Well, but for children. So Emma became this little bird who is very ambitious and in tune with her body, and she is exemplifying the pillars of our lifestyle that we teach through our company.
Melissa, tell us a little bit about this lifestyle.
Yeah, so Emma the Mighty Leader is a little blueprint to Live Well, Lead Well, and our philosophy is just taking care of your body, resting when you need to, moving with intention, nourishing your body, and using breath work when in stressful situations. So our pillars and foundation of Live Well, Lead Well is all about nourishment, movement, and mindfulness, taking a holistic approach in order to living a well life and really taking care of your health and being able to share that with others in order to be the best leader that you can. So yeah.
So Melanie, I'm imagining that Emma is sort of learning these different pillars and ideas in the book.
She is. I mean, she is definitely learning along the way. So the book starts out with her, taking in the day and expressing gratitude. And then she realizes that she needs to nourish her body. So she sources these berries and she drinks water. And then she realizes that she needs to move her body in order to feel well. And so she practices stretching and all of these practices then she brings to her friends, and she says, I was having kind of a sluggish morning and these things made me feel better. And so she's bringing that energy to her community. And I think that's where it starts, is when you are a child and you can inspire your friends and you can inspire your community to do what feels good.
Melissa, and as I'm looking at the artwork for Emma the Mighty Leader, it's obvious that Emma is a cute little bird, and birds and other animals kind of get this, I got to get up, I got to get something to eat, I got to move around, I got to stretch, and I'm imagining animals are thankful for the day. Why is it that we have to teach our kids these things? And is this a new phenomenon that we have to start teaching our kids these things?
Well, I think the key is, they're little sponges. They absorb everything that around their own environment. How are their parents, and we live in a more stressful time when our focus is around work and tasks and doing and getting to a baseball game and making sure you have all of these boxes checked off in your day. And so we just wanted to introduce this way of living well from a very young age in order to not only make it engaging for the kid, but also for the parents to engage in it as well, as a reminder to take thought and care into how we're moving our bodies, the words we're telling ourselves, maybe those stressful moments, maybe we can handle them a little bit differently, taking a few deep breaths rather than, relying on something else that we might tend to go for, like fast food line or something similar to that, right? These reward systems, trying to reward ourselves with things that will fuel us and make us feel better.
Melanie, one of the things that we've talked a lot about here on Reading with Your Kids is the idea that, and it's a terrifying idea, that there are so many kids, especially really young kids, that are dealing with levels of anxiety that are really unheard of. Why do you think it might be that so many of our kids are anxious these days?
Well, there's obviously so much research being done about this right now, and they're referring it to the anxious generation. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media, and it's probably a predictable answer, but it's good it's being talked about a lot because social media is basically depicting this false narrative for both adults and children, because what we see on social media is for the most part completely fake and curated. And so I think it's giving this perception of unrealistic expectations, whether, I can speak more to how we're viewing our bodies. And that's a concern of mine coming from a background of disordered eating, of how we view beauty standards. And when kids, and especially teenagers, are exposed to these unrealistic images of what body standards should look like, that obviously creates this anxiety because you're comparing yourself and you start to put pressure on yourself, taking you away from your natural state and how you should be and how, and then it starts to transform into this, like I said, unrealistic expectation. So I think social media is a big part of it. Obviously the state of our world and just what happens on a daily basis, our exposure to that, all of these things. And I think it's also the adult addiction to social media and to devices and to always be connected. If you think back to our ancestors, they lived in the moment because that was their only option. They had community, they lived off of the land, and that made them present and grounded. But now we have so many options to be connected constantly. And that's really stressful. And I think kids really do feed off of that. So the more that they can see us handling stress and taking care of ourselves and how we cope with struggle, hopefully the more that they will be able to pick up on some of those skills.
Well, one of the things that we talk about here is that if we want our kids to develop a love of reading, they should see us reading. And, to go along with what you were talking about, if we want our kids to be able to deal with these stressors in their lives in happy and healthier ways, they need to see us doing it. Melissa, how did you two come together to form your Live Well, Lead Well company and to help all these different people around the country?
Yeah, so Mel and I met actually on the set of Fuller House. My husband is an actor who was on the show, and Melanie worked in production at the time, and she was transitioning her career into holistic wellness and becoming a nutritionist. And I was struggling and battling with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. And during that time, we became instant friends and just started going on these hikes and talking more about wellness in general. And she was the first person to introduce me to this holistic living, how to nourish my body again with real whole foods, and treat food as medicine. And so when I started to do that and apply the practice, I started having, great success. Pain-free movement, became an option for me. I wasn't in this constant battle. I was able to get off medication, and it was such an eye-opening thing for me that I was like, we need to do something with this and help women know that they have the power to control their health. And that's where it all began.
Melissa, you mentioned pain-free, and that caught my eyes and my ears because I deal with a lot of pain. I'm recovering from a couple of surgeries. You're a certified Function First pain-free specialist. That is a specialist I'd never heard of, and I would have heard of it a couple of years ago.
Right.
What's that? What does that encompass?
Yeah, so I have always loved exercise and moving my body and hiking and being outside and doing activities and rock climbing. But with lupus, it was so debilitating. I had chronic inflammation that led to joint pain and just made all these things that I love doing unenjoyable. And so when I healed my body through food, I was like, I need to get back into this and help other women who maybe struggle with chronic pain realize that, taking a functional approach to exercise and low impact and that mind-body connection can actually really help lower the pain and inflammation in your body.
Wow. Wow. And I guess the nutrition part comes in with you, Melanie. You have that specialty. What are, without asking you to diagnose everybody that's listening, what are some of the simple first steps that a family can take to kind of better their nutrition?
That's a great question. And I think it's all about starting very small. When we especially come to January 1st, I think people try to change everything at once, and that never works because it's going too far from what your baseline is right now. So I think it's about looking at what you can add to your plate instead of taking away at first. So let's say you have, a standard meat and potatoes sort of dinner, which that can also be healthy, but let's look at what we can add to that plate. So let's say someone is having literally steak and potatoes. Let's add some green to that. Let's add some color. So maybe that's taking a sheet pan and roasting some broccoli and some asparagus and some zucchini or bell peppers and adding as many colors to that piece of steak, to that potato, so that you have a more well-rounded meal. I think a lot of people aren't eating enough variety, and I think that's back to the additions on your plate. So, I like to look at it as the color system, especially for children, because children are very responsive to colors and sensory, and it can also make healthy eating feel more fun if you are creating sort of a rainbow on your plate and looking at it like that. So I would say, what can you add to your plate to get more color?
That sounds like a great family activity. I've always said here in the show that reading with your kids leads to cooking with your kids, leads to drawing with your kids, and doing all these other life things with your kids. I'm thinking a great way to start would just be in the grocery store, taking your kids to the groceries. Okay, what kind of things can we add to our meals that adds color? Not the Fruit Loops. We're not talking about Fruit Loops. No. And just go in that produce section as we first walk into most supermarkets and really start having conversations with our kids about what choices we're going to make when it comes to what we're putting in our bodies.
Absolutely. And I also like to say that every color has a different superpower when it comes to things made by nature. So thank you for specifying on the Fruit Loops. Saying that, green makes you strong and orange helps your eyes, orange helps you see better. And I try to implement that with my daughter, being completely real. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does, but that's the nature of children. But another great way to do that is, I'm lucky enough being in Los Angeles that we have farmers markets year round, but even if you don't live in a climate that is warm year round, look into farmers markets. Melissa has a great one in Michigan that's every Saturday. And going to the farmers market, I think, is such a great thing to do with your children because they can see the people that worked really hard to provide that. You can't really get the same experience at a grocery store because you're not as connected to the food. And so if you explain to them, like, these farmers, they put their heart and soul into picking this produce for you, and you can meet them and talk with them. And, I think that just gives another layer, a really special layer of, your relationship with food from a young age.
Melissa, that seems like such a great idea that Melody just mentioned. You come from the world of, your husband's a celebrity and, kids look up to celebrities. And wouldn't it be cool if our kids can start looking at the regular people in our lives as celebrities?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many unsung heroes, right? And, so if we can shed light on those individuals who are growing our food and sharing that with us, then what a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take advantage here because I'm the host of the show. Melissa, you are this function first, pain-free specialist. Let's make believe there's this hypothetical, almost 100-year-old guy that's balding and goes to the gym every day, but like has very little flexibility, and the knees and the joints hurt almost all the time. What can we tell that hypothetical person? What can that person do to better his life?
Yeah, the first thing I would ask is, what's your mind-body connection like? Are you breathing during exercise? Are you mindful of the movements that you're trying to make with those muscles? And are you breathing oxygen into the body while trying to stretch? I think we all kind of strive to be like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym every day and hit it hard with X, Y, and Z. But a lot of times we're adding stress to our body by over conditioning, because we're treating it as a task instead of treating it as this inner healing of stretching and being able to have more mobility and movement. And also just, so I'm a big believer in movement snacks. It's just being mindful of the way you're doing everyday tasks. So whether that's reaching for something in the cabinet, you are engaging that core, and you're mindful of the stretch that it's doing. If just getting in and out of your vehicle, shoulders back while you're driving, sit up nice and tall, engage the core, those types of things, right? To really just help first develop that mind-body connection. And once that is established, then you kind of move into that gym scenario for the more refined goals. But a big thing that has helped me with pain is the breath work associated with it. So when our body is in a calm state, we tend to have a more effective workout, and we have more oxygen going into the brain. When we're stressed and tense, we're just working out, and all of our body is like in this hyper-focused mode where it's never relaxed in order to actually develop the muscles and release. Like, you're not stretching or finding flexibility because of that tense feeling. So breathe into the exercises, really nice, slow breaths, and being really intentional with your movements.
All right. Well, that's good advice for that hypothetical person out there. Well, it's obvious that Emma the Mighty Leader, I think, is going to spark a lot of great ongoing conversations with our kids, which is what I love about books and reading with our kids. Can you both tell us where we can go to find out more about Emma the Mighty Leader and more about Live Well, Lead Well?
Absolutely. So livewellleadwell.us is our website. That's where you'll be able to purchase Emma the Mighty Leader, also on Amazon. And you can also sign up to be a part of our community. Mel and I host seminars, women's retreats, and do a variety of coaching.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here. I want to encourage everybody to check out Emma the Leader. We've been speaking with the authors, Melanie Samuels and Melissa Coulier. My friends, thanks so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you, Deb, for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Melissa mentioned that her husband was part of the cast of Full House. So I thought it would be very appropriate and very fun to listen back to our conversation with one of his co-stars, Candace Cameron Bure. Joining us on the line right now is from beautiful Los Angeles in California. She is the author of an amazing new children's book called Candace Center Stage. Please welcome to the show author, best-selling author, and also TV star, Candace Cameron Bure. Candace, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm great. Thanks.
Thanks for being on the show. I'm excited to learn more about Candace Center Stage. It's bringing back some memories. My daughter was a dancer from the age of 2.5 to adulthood.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was a really wonderful, positive experience for her. I think a little bit different than Candace's experience, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the book?
Well, first I'll tell you, writing this book has been a 20-year dream of mine. I've published several other books, but writing a children's book has been just a first want and desire and wish of mine. So I'm so glad that it's finally here. And this is just the first of many stories that Candace will tell, little Candace will tell in more books. But Candace Center Stage is about a little girl that has a pretty big personality, and she thinks that she's a great dancer and she doesn't really need any dance lessons. But her mom puts her in ballet class, and she soon realizes that she's not quite as graceful as she thinks she is. But her mom encourages her to keep at it and working hard, which she does. And she gets scared, but works through her fears. And ultimately it works out for the best. And she has a great little recital and even encourages the other girls just by being herself in the class. And, in each little story, it's about having a good positive message for kids that parents can talk about with their kids, and also just learning to know that it's okay to be you, and you don't have to be afraid to ever try just for fear of failing, because you'll never know unless you do try.
I think those are really, really important messages, and I especially like that idea of letting kids know that they can try, and trying is the goal, not necessarily succeeding or being the best, but just trying.
Yep, I feel like I didn't learn that message early enough in my life. And as I've gotten older, it's really has been one of the best pieces of advice that I ever learned is to not be afraid of failure. And if I can encourage my own kids to do that, and other little ones reading, and just parents to encourage that message, because there's so much within us, but if we let fear hold us back, we'll absolutely never know what we're capable of. And the worst thing that's going to happen if we fail is just that. Yeah. We fail, but we can always get back up and try again, or try something different that we might enjoy more or be more successful at.
You know, that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of parents, is that a lot of parents these days seem to kind of wrap their kids in bubble wrap and do everything they can so that the kid doesn't fail. I was a competitive soccer player and coached a very competitive high school team. And when my kids were of the age of youth soccer, I was asked to coach a team, and went over and discovered that they didn't keep score. And I thought, how preposterous is this? All these kids are keeping score. It's just you adults who are kidding yourselves.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, my husband was a professional hockey player for 12 years, and both my boys play hockey and are now in high school and college age. But yeah, we've never been fans of everyone gets a trophy, because the reality of life is that everyone doesn't get a trophy, and we have to learn how to be okay with that. But it also, when you are able to succeed, it really does build your self-esteem, and it's okay to be proud of that. If you are the best at something, there's no shame in that. But if you're not great, you have to understand and learn how to deal with rejection or disappointment, but you can go on and try something else. That's the great thing.
Absolutely. Hey, Candace, I'm just so proud. I'm gonna share this with you. You have a hockey playing family. We have a new foster niece in our family, and she's amazing. I love her. She, at 14 years old, was the first time she ever saw an ice skating rink. And someone asked her if she wanted to be on her middle school hockey team, and she said, sure, not knowing what that was. And she went on, and she fell in love with the game, and she's been working so hard, learning how to skate, learning how to play hockey. She actually made it to the Boston University hockey camp over the summertime, and is trying out for her high school team now. And it's
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it's just like that whole thing. She understands that the odds of her just skating and not breaking a leg are very slim. But it doesn't matter. This is something that she wants to do, and I'm so proud of her. And I love that that's a message that you're getting out through your book is just that, hey, give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So important. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We'd also really love it if you could write a 5-star review for Reading with Your Kids on whatever podcasting app you find us on. We love Spotify, iHeartRadio, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, but wherever you find Reading with Your Kids, we love that platform too. So, and if you could leave us a little bit of love, leave us a 5-star review, that will help in our mission to help all families grow closer together through reading. We'd also love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on X. Of course, you heard me talking about our STEM is Family Fun and Drawing With Your Kids videos. You can find them on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And of course, our website is readingwithyourkids.com. You can visit that website to send us a message. You can also visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame. And if you are an author, please do visit readingwithyourkids.com and click on the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest and tell thousands of people all about your fantastic children's book. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. First, we want to start by thanking our guest, Leanna Fink. Please be sure to check out Mixed Feelings. Also want to thank Melissa Coulier and Melanie Samuels. Please be sure to check out Emma, the Mighty Leader. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.